Hello there, world. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Joe, a licensed, certified public accountant with over 10 years' experience in corporate and public accounting. I have an extensive background in accounting, audits, and taxes, and I'm all about helping you take control of your money and live smarter. Today, we're breaking down a question a lot of people have. What is the difference between state and federal taxes? Taxes can be confusing, but knowing how these two works can help you understand where your money goes and how to file your taxes right. No accounting jargon here, just simple, easy to understand information. Let's jump into it. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on all notifications for more video updates. And don't forget to check out our blog site where we post every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Alrighty, first, let's take a look at what are federal taxes. Federal taxes are taxes collected by the US government. This includes income tax, Social Security tax, and Medicare tax. Federal income tax is the big one. It's based on your total income and fund things like national defense, Social Security benefits, healthcare group programs, and other government services. Your employer usually withholds federal taxes from your paycheck, and you file a federal tax return each year with the IRS. Now, let's take a look at some things. Remember, federal taxes are collected by the IRS or the Internal Revenue Services to fund programs and services run by the United States government, which is also known as the federal government. And remember, these are the things that usually are paid through by your tax dollars. It includes national defense, so think of the military, Social Security and Medicaid programs, federal highways. So if you live on the East Coast, the biggest federal highway I can think of right now is I-95, education and health programs, and then government salaries and operations of the government. Alrighty, now let's take a look at what are state taxes. State taxes are usually collected by the state government where you live or work. Most states have their own income tax, but not all. For example, states like Florida, Texas, and Washington don't charge state income tax. State taxes help to pay for things like public schools, state roads, local law enforcement, and other community services. You usually file a separate state tax return with your state tax agency. So remember, state taxes are collected by your individual state government. And let's take a recap of what state funded taxes cover. It's usually things like your local public schools, state police, local roads and bridges, state parks, healthcare services, and state government workers. So let's break down the key difference between state and federal taxes. Remember, they're both collected by one is collected by the US government or the federal government, and the other one is collected by your state government. Now, the ones collected by the federal government are used for national programs that affect the country, and the ones collected by your state government are usually for your just for your state or your local services within your whatever municipality you live in. Now, who pays it? Everyone pays federal taxes, but at the state level, depending on the state that you live in, you may or may not have to pay state income taxes. Now, for the federal government, the rate is usually the same for all, depending on how much you made. And then for the state, it varies state by state. And tax return is required for it is required for the federal. It usually is required by states, but not always. Now, here's some of the main differences to also keep in mind. Tax rate. Just like we talked about earlier, federal tax rates apply nationwide, while state tax rates vary. Some states have higher or lower rates, and some have none. And then we have tax rules. The IRS handles federal taxes with one set of rules, but each state has its own rules and forms. So you really want to know where you live at, and depending on the state that you live in, you really want to have a good understanding of their state rules, or just hire a tax professional to help you with that. Filing. You file a separate return for the federal and the state. Sometimes this get tricky if you live in one state and work in another. For example, we have a lot of clients that live in Pennsylvania but may work in Delaware, or they live in Delaware but work in Pennsylvania. So in that case, you're going to file not only your federal taxes, but you're going to file a Pennsylvania state income tax and a Delaware state income tax. And just rule of thumb, they don't reciprocate each other. So, what I find most times is usually if you work outside of Delaware and you work in another state, you usually are going to owe the state of Delaware. Most times, not all the time, but most times. And there are a few states where you don't pay any state income taxes. And just to name off a few of them, if you ever wanted to move there and save on tax money, you have Alaska, Florida, Nevada, South Dakota, Texas, Washington, and Wyoming. And then there's some other states like Tennessee and New Hampshire where they only tax certain types of income like interest or dividends. Alrighty, let's talk about something really quickly. Let's talk about local taxes. In some places, you might even have to pay local taxes like a city or county income tax. For example, New York City has its own income tax, separate from New York State and federal taxes. Some cities in Ohio also collect local income taxes. These taxes fund things like local schools, police departments, and public transportation. Now, if you live in the state of Pennsylvania, you definitely are going to pay all these taxes because I know you have your federal taxes you're going to pay, you have your state of Pennsylvania or Commonwealth of Pennsylvania taxes you're going to pay. You're going to pay if you live in Philadelphia, you're going to pay a city wage tax, and then I've also seen where some places where they'll charge you a municipality and then you'll also pay a county tax. So I don't know if you guys remember the song that came out years ago called "Racks on Racks on Racks." If you never heard the song, you could definitely YouTube it. But I feel like here in Pennsylvania it is instead of racks on racks on racks, it's tax on tax on tax because we pay a lot of taxes here in the state of Pennsylvania or the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So you definitely want to watch out for those local because that'll get you tripped up a lot. I see that a lot with clients. Where they forget about their local municipality taxes, whether you're paying a county tax on top of a local township tax on top of your state and your federal taxes. So it's definitely a lot of taxes here in Pennsylvania, and those do fund like here in Philadelphia, the city wage tax helps to pay for the different things that are going on in the city, such as the police department, the municipal workers. What else does it support? Stadiums, if you're getting a new stadium, different construction, different initiatives around the city. So that's usually with those local municipality things. I had a client who was actually paying the Philadelphia city wage tax and paying another municipality tax. He was like, "Joe, what do I do?" I said, "Brother, it's best just to move into the city so that way you can leave that other municipality behind you. Because unfortunately, in Pennsylvania, you're going to pay that tax on tax on tax." So you may be asking yourself, how do state and federal taxes work together? Your total tax bill is a combination of both federal and state taxes. For example, you might pay 10% federal income tax and 5% state income tax depending on where you live. When you do your taxes, it's important to know both because you'll need to be prepared to file both returns correctly. Now, remember, you may need to file more than one return. You may even need to file three: one for the federal, for the IRS, one for your state that you live in, and another one if you work in a different state than where you live. So you may need to file up to three different tax returns. Your federal refund doesn't affect your state taxes. You could get a refund from one state and owe another. I've seen this before where I've had clients where they owed in one state, but they were getting a refund in another state. And that usually just tells me that those states don't have a reciprocal agreement for state taxes. If you use a tax software, they'll usually file both for you, but you will pay for the state taxes. Usually, the federal one is free, but then you'll have to pay an amount depending on how many state taxes you need to file and whatnot. And then if you're moving states, you may need to file in two states if you move mid-year or work across state lines. So just remember that you will have to pay two taxes if you do move to a different state in the middle of the year, or if you're working in one state and living in another. So, what are some tips for managing your state and federal taxes? Here's a few quick tips to keep things simple. Remember to keep good records of all your income and expenses. Use a tax software or a tax professional who handles both federal and state returns. Remember to stay up to date on your state taxes. They can change year to year, just like the feds. And if you move to a different state, understand how that affects your taxes. Same thing with if you work in one state and live in another. So let's wrap things up. Federal taxes go to the national government or the feds and support a broad programs, while state go to your state and fund local services. Both are important, and understanding the difference can help you file your taxes right and plan your finances better. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, please like it and share it with a friend who wants to understand taxes better. Next week, we will break down what to know about tax refund delays. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on all notifications. And be sure to check out our blog site where we post every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.